Hey everyone, welcome back to Project Honesty, a podcast designed for young adults, by a young adult, to gain brutally honest, friend-like advice, as well as provide a platform for young adults to form opinions, color outside of the lines, take deep dives into current events, and most importantly, have fun. This is Project Honesty, navigating reality with real conversations and diverse opinions. Hey everybody, welcome back. If you're on Project Honesty's Instagram, at project_honesty24, you would have seen that yesterday I posted a poll for y'all to guess what we're going to be talking about today. So if you got it right, congratulations, but if you didn't, congratulations, you're here. You'll find out now. Today we're going to be talking about school. We're going to be going over why I think school can be beneficial, why I believe that school can impact your success not only as a student, but in your adulthood. We're also going to recognize the gaps in global education. We're going to go over my single-gendered school experience and the overall impacts that my education has had on my mental health, social life, and success. So some of the inspirations behind this episode. Obviously, I'm a student. I attend public school full-time. Being a student impacts how I run this podcast. It impacts my scheduling. It impacts my editing. It impacts a lot of things. And while being in school, I'm still in school and I will be for the next 2 years. I've had both good and bad experiences at school. And I've had a taste of 3 different types or levels of education. I've had private, I've had public, and I've also had charter. Today, we're mainly going to be focusing on the public and charter section of my education because that is going to kind of be our segue into the topics we're going to be talking about today. This episode is really important to me. As a student in public school, I find that my voice isn't necessarily heard at times. We're also going to be talking about a bone I have to pick with public education and why I think it can negatively impact your success. So as a prerequisite, talking about the global education gap, speaking about education in general, from a student perspective, it's important to recognize that not everybody has access to equal education. According to Statista in 2020, 90% of the world had completed primary school level education. So like elementary school up to grade 5 or 6. But only 66% of the world was able to complete high school. So we see that gap changes significantly. Also, examining this data, we can see that men overall have had more access to education than women. But luckily, with the younger generations and most of us being in schools, we have seen this gap in education based on gender slowly close. It still exists for sure, but it is slowly shrinking and more women are getting the opportunity and access to education. And it's kind of a known fact, I would say, is there is parts of the world that do lack proper education, and that impacts the ability for people in those regions to have access to education. So regions like Central Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa are probably some of the hot spots for a lack in education. And so I just wanted to recognize those things before I start off. This podcast is, from my perspective, I have been able to have a great education and I still have a really awesome education, but I do want to recognize that there are people in this world who don't have access to things like that. Moving forward, why is school beneficial? Now, I know some of you are like, this is obvious, because it's like a rite of passage for most people, especially in the Western world and Western culture. It's the place where we all go. We meet our friends here. It's the foundation of our identity, career, and society. It's the place where we grow social skills and we learn the fundamentals of life. So our basic math skills, science, social studies, English, geography, history, things like that. And a lot of people do reap the benefits that school offers, but not everybody, like we said, has access to a proper education. School also enhances your communication skills, your fine motor skills, as well as your ability to read and write. School teaches you how to use logic in situations, and it influences how you make decisions as a student, but also later on in life into adulthood. School is a relatable subject for most people. When people have conversations, if school is brought up, it's kind of an easy subject to talk about because we've all been there with both the good things and the bad things and the stress that comes along with being a student. So my experience as a student at an all-girls school or a single-gendered school was really good. And before I get into that, I just want to clear up some stereotypes around single-gendered schools. They're isolating, they turn you gay, they're for girls that are at risk of becoming teen moms, and they're basically a boarding school. These stereotypes around all-girls schools are very crass. And I would even go as far as to say that they're insensitive. These stereotypes shouldn't be placed on a school, especially the school that I went to. The school that I went to was a really great school, and it gave me the opportunity to access the education that I really wanted and deserved. That's one of the reasons why I went. But I came from a public school that was very judgmental, and I faced a lot of bullying, heavy bullying, by what I now recognize as immature and insecure girls that had a lot of time on their hands. And so I was looking for a place that would benefit my future, but also build up the confidence that had been destroyed by other people. The school is also a charter school, and that was another attraction of why I went there. Some of the pros of this school is, again, I gained a lot of confidence. I'm the person I am today because of this school. The teachers were very confident in my abilities and never doubted my ability to be successful. Another benefit about this charter school was the smaller class sizes. In high school, I have classes that range from 25 people to almost 40 people. But at this school, classes were small. And so you got the opportunity to ask questions and have one-on-one time with your teacher to make sure that you were understanding the material. And the teachers, they have a lot of passion for what they do at this school. I would say compared to my high school teachers, my teachers in junior high cared a lot more about what they were doing than the teachers I have now. They loved what they were doing. They loved what they were teaching. And because they loved it, they enjoyed teaching it to us and helping us understand that material. And overall, at this school, there was definitely a great community aspect. Doesn't matter who you were, what grade you were in, you could find friends here. And it was very close-knit, and everybody knows everybody. We all care for each other, and we all bond as a community. And overall, this school was a very empowering environment. When comparing it to public school, it stands out. The amount of confidence you get from your teachers and your peers is incredible. Nobody is doubting your ability to have success. And you really get the opportunity to be who you want to be and be empowered in that role of being yourself. Now, like anything in life, there are cons to things. So teachers at this school are very not strict, which made going into high school a little bit tricky, especially because teachers in high school are very by the book and not very open. And so the teachers at this school were definitely the opposite of that. And so it made that transition going into high school a little bit rocky. Another obvious one here is that there is a possibility for less diversity because of it being single gendered. And so when you go into high school, you realize that, oh, there's a lot more people here and they're all different. And so it is kind of closed off to diversity, especially since being an all-girls school, you don't get to socialize with your male counterparts, which, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I have brothers, and so interacting with guys is kind of normal, but I know for some it can be a little tricky. Smaller campus than most junior highs. my junior high campus was tiny compared to most. Sometimes we had to really work with what we had to make our class time successful. We did have a lot of breakout spaces, but there wasn't a lot of space for us. There was a lot of students and not as much space. But honestly, overall, I couldn't think of many cons. This school did a lot of great things for me, and it was a really awesome part of my life. Recently, I went back and did sessions for students in grade 5 and grade 8 and 9 for their International Women's Day conference that they hold every year. As an alumni, I was so happy to be back and seeing that the girls in this program were empowered and excited to take the wheel of their learning and their passions and their careers. It definitely factors into my identity, and it really set me up for the success I have now and the success I will get later on. And I feel like if I didn't go to this school, I don't know if I could guarantee that I would be here today. I do give it credit, a lot of credit, for building the confidence that I have now and making me a better person overall. So now we're going to talk about public education. Now, this part of the podcast might seem a little bit ranty, and it's because it is. I don't like the public education system. I disagree with it, and I feel that it's manipulating youth, and it's not talked about enough. And so if nobody else is going to talk about it, I will. So in elementary school, I went to a public school. Then I took that break and went to a charter school for 3 years. But now I am back in public school for high school. And now that I'm older and wiser, I have picked up on a lot more things that are concerning for me as a student. The manipulation and judgment from your teachers. Public school teachers don't give a crap about their students, which is really sad. And they're really lacking that passion they have for teaching, and you can just see that the spark is gone. And I know it has things to do with teachers being overworked, underpaid, large class sizes. I get it, but it does have an impact on the way that we students learn. And I don't think students recognize that that's a problem. It's a problem to have teachers that aren't passionate about what they do because it impacts what you're learning. Now, the biggest bone I have to pick with the public education system is my ability to only use government resources. This is something that actually gets me quite angry, but I'm not going to get too angry on here. I have 2 examples of this happening in my daily education. So a little while ago, I was prepping to write a paper, and I showed the resources to my teacher. My teacher was like, "Hey, everybody, before you write this paper, just show me what you're using so I know where you're getting your information." I used a source called the BBC. I used a couple articles from their website because the BBC is a very unbiased news source, and I do like the information that they put out there. When I showed it to my teacher, they said, "You can't use that." I was confused. I was like, "Why? It's a source." Their reason? It wasn't a government-appointed website, so the information on it wouldn't be accurate. I paused. I was like, what the hell is going on? The point of doing research is that it's unbiased. Being unbiased in your research will give you the best answer possible. And so when I asked why, and I got told that because it wasn't a government website and I can't use it and that the information wasn't accurate, I was frustrated. And my teacher said that it doesn't matter if it's unbiased or it is accurate. It's not appointed by the Canadian government, so I can't use it to write my paper. Another example of this is almost every assignment I have gotten so far has only been linked to government websites as the sources. Being in this transition from a charter school to a public school, this part of it is shocking. In charter school, I was able to use resources outside of government appointed ones because that's how you get the best answer in research, is to find resources that express many different opinions rather than what the government wants. And so using government sources for quote unquote research creates a biased learning environment, which is leading to the manipulation of youth. When you're only allowed to use a government source that is owned by the government, so for Canada, that would be like CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, you're only going to hear what the government wants you to hear. You won't have access to outside information. And I hope that that's setting off some alarm bells in people's heads right now, if you haven't recognized it before, because that's shielding and it's manipulating. A lot of people don't agree with the government. So why is my education based on what they're telling me? In the real world, you have the opportunity to explore many outlets for your research and find different sources. And so when I'm told to use a government website that is supposedly accurate, I'm frustrated, for sure. Talking about resources, another thing that I don't like about school is the outdated text I have to use. It's 2024, but the textbook that I'm using to quote unquote learn were written before I was born. In like 2007, these textbooks were written. It's 2024. It's crazy. It's limiting our access to modern information that we have. For an example, because we all love examples, in my social studies class, the concept of e-commerce and the internet in the textbook is completely new and unexplored. It's foreign to us in this textbook, that e-commerce, so like Amazon, are completely new. And these things are normal to us. Amazon's normal to us, and we all know how to use the internet. We understand also that e-commerce and the internet is important and beneficial to our economy, our politics, our society, and our environment. Instead of learning about the future of tech, we're stuck here learning about the past of tech. And I mean, sure, it's important to learn the foundation of what we have now, but soon that's going to be too outdated to teach. And it's frustrating. As a student, I want to know new information, but instead I have to do that on my own and learn new information outside of school when I feel like I should be learning it in school. I'm going to share a theory. Now, I try not to be into theories too much, but this one I came across on Instagram. And I really, really believe it, actually. And I think that it's a great way of putting the public education system into perspective. So it's public school is designed to make good employees, not individual success. If you guys have ever seen the picture of kids on a conveyor belt going through school and it's like colors going down the drain and happiness and whatever, I 1000% agree with that picture. School is trying to turn me into an employee. Now, I'm thankful that I had 3 years of being in a charter school where I was allowed to have an opinion, because now it's making me recognize that public school is teaching me all the things to be a good employee, but it's not teaching me entrepreneurship. It's not teaching me how to start a business. It's not teaching me all the important things in life and how to be a successful adult. It's teaching me how to be a good employee for people. And that's not okay with me. I don't want to go to school to be a good employee. I want to go to school to be a good person. And so that's really frustrating, being stuck in the public school system and having to deal with that. How do these factors impact success and mental health? Before I say anything, I just want to say that nobody should be defining your success. You should be the one defining it for yourself. Success to everybody is different. My definition of success may not be your definition of success, and that is 100% okay. To me, school isn't my way of becoming successful. Even though I might do amazing on a test, or I get the answer right, or I get praised by a teacher, that's not where I gain fulfillment in my life. And I really hope that's not where everybody gains fulfillment. And sure, it's nice to be told that you're doing a good job, but it's not what I work towards. Speaking on the post-secondary aspect of that, it's not something that piques my interest. It's relevant for some people who want to be doctors, lawyers, engineers. Definitely not me. If I'm being really honest, my career choice doesn't necessarily need a post-secondary education. I would much rather spend the money and the time that I would be using going to post-secondary on to grow my network and to go to auditions and to meet people. But outside of the career aspect of that, I want to use that time to travel the world and explore new cultures, go to new places. Because I think when we learn from the world, it really makes you a better person, learning from the world around you rather than sitting in a classroom being fed biased information all day. I would much rather see the world around me and get to know it and understand it, stuck in a classroom for 6 hours a day being lectured about it. That's, again, being stuck in school is not my definition of success. Now, I know that my teachers don't want to hear that and my parents don't want to hear that. Too bad. They're hearing it. I base this podcast on honesty. If I'm being honest, school is not what it takes to be successful for me. Exploring and seeing things is how I have found success in my life and what I think makes me a better contributor to society and my peers and the environment around me. And school is limiting to your opportunity to knowledge in global events because currently in school, I'm not learning about anything that's happening in the world. The only way I'm learning about things that are happening outside of school and outside of my own country are when I watch the news in my free time to get to know what's happening. And I think that also has a negative impact on your success because how are you supposed to grow in an environment you're unfamiliar to? Just saying. On the mental health aspect of this, school creates negative mindsets and perfectionism, especially in public education. I found that you're taught not to fail. That is something that is completely unhealthy. Failure is a part of everybody's life, whether they like it or not. And so being taught to not fail sets you up for more failure, because you're dedicating every waking moment of your life into doing good in school. And so the moment that you don't do good, it ruins everything for you and you get into a negative headspace and you feel like your worth is valued by how good you do in school, which to me is completely ridiculous and something I don't agree with. In school, especially I've noticed this in high school, it puts an unnecessary amount of stress on students. Tying into that perfectionism, it really isn't teaching you how to be a good adult. It's teaching you how to be a really good kid. We're not kids when we grow up, we're adults. So why am I not being taught how to be a good adult rather than be a good kid? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Another thing that is lacking in the public education system is being taught self-care and how to properly take care of your mental health and how to juggle school. Now, we do have something called career and life management. I don't find that teaches you real ways to take care of your mental health. Personally, in career and life management, I have learned nothing about how to take care of my mental health in a healthy way and manage the stress that I have. And so when students are taught self-care, so they're taught to get more sleep and they're taught to take a day off for mental health, and they value their free time and spending time with yourself or your friends or your family, I think that overall helps students perform better when in an academic setting. Don't you think? When you have more time to yourself outside of school, you can really focus on school when you're in it, rather than focusing on it in school and outside of school, and you have to be forced to find the time for yourself, which shouldn't exist, to me at least. So in conclusion to this podcast, school has positives for sure. It's definitely important, but there is also negative effects of school that should be recognized and that aren't talked about enough. And those factors will impact your mental health and your overall success when it comes to being an adult. So thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Project Honesty. You can find Project Honesty on YouTube at Project_Honesty or on Spotify at Project Honesty. And to get updates and information about upcoming episodes, you can head over to Project Honesty on Instagram. It's Project_Honesty 24. Thank you so much for listening to another episode. Can't wait to see you next time.